Steve, I want to toss this one to you to kind of lay out an overview of, because when it comes to North Carolina and what's happening there, you were on the ground there for how long?
3 full weeks, and then I went and spent another weekend there just before I came back to Dallas.
Okay, so you're speaking from a position of authority on this, having been on the ground in North Carolina, having seen the devastation that you saw, and the National Guard is saying, we're on the ground, we're working around the clock. I think that they had a tweet that was like, we are, we're not stopping until all of this is better. And it doesn't actually seem to be the case. Is that?
Yeah, let me give you the quick backstory on this. When I was embedded there with the Savage Freedoms Project in Swannanoa, which is just outside of Asheville, it's in Buncombe County, utterly devastated. Mm-hmm. I mean, and we're 8 weeks since this storm now, right? And
which, by the way, everyone's forgotten about.
Right. So 8 weeks later, 8 weeks later, and this is on the this is Interstate 40. This is the main connection to the East Coast in this country. It looks like the storm happened yesterday. It's still not recovered there. And so I spent my last day there 1 week ago today. I was driving through the area. So I drove there along the Swannanoa River. I went into Asheville, because the interstate is still washed out, so you can't get to Tennessee on the main interstate anymore, at least not now. And so you have to go into the mountains, and you have to take the back roads that have been cleared out. And it's it's about 150 miles of this, hairpin turns and dips into the valleys along the rivers. Then you eventually reach the French Broad River, which then you follow along, and it takes you into eastern Tennessee, and you see the devastation. And you see houses up in trees 30 feet above the current water level that are still there. And it all of a sudden dawned on me during this multi-hour winding 150-mile journey to Tennessee through the back roads, is I didn't see a single military transport at all of any kind. Not one troop on the ground of any kind, either active duty or National Guard. Well, by the time I got to Dallas, and I was here on Wednesday, I started asking questions, started inquiring, started looking at this. No, not me. I started doing the things that Sara doesn't like me to do.
No, I like you to do them. I just want to come up with my own conspiracies before I do that.
But what we stumbled in was a lot of great Sara Gonzales isms. Is the first thing that I discovered is that in fact that the National Guard had been withdrawn on the 19th of this month. All right.
What?
Wow.
So the National Guard's not there. Now, while I was there, I was able to establish relationships with not only actual individual troopers of the National Guard, as well as the 18th Airborne Corps, but also I've got the phone numbers now of the what they call the public relations, the people, the public affairs officers. And so I start calling them, and I start asking questions. And some of them were like, let me get back to you on that tomorrow. And then some of them were like, yes, sir, Mr. Baker, thanks for calling. Yes, we, as a matter of fact, this was straight from Major Amy Vaez. She's a public affairs officer for the 18th Airborne, which that's the 82nd out of Fort Bragg or Fort Liberty in Fayetteville, North Carolina, as well as Fort Campbell, the 101st Airborne. And she said, yes, we withdrew about a month ago. Now,
wow.
Okay. Now,
all right.
What? So this is where we get to the punchline. So as I'm starting to dig through this, I go to the the official X account of the North Carolina National Guard. Mm-hmm. The pinned post is what you referred to a moment ago. And it said, this is a no-fail mission. We are there for you till it's over. No, they're not.
Well, apparently it's over.
It's incredible.
Apparently it is, except that it's not.
It's not.
except that it's not.
Right.
And then I started and then yesterday, just yesterday. So we're working on this story for the last several days. And then just yesterday, all of a sudden, whoever their social media person is populating the X page with all these new posts showing photos of all the work that they're currently doing, except that some of those photos have green leaves on the trees still in the background.
They are.
Oh, wow.
And of course, all of the trees now are off. All the leaves are off the
November
trees.
in North Carolina. It doesn't look like that.
And there's snow on the ground.
Uh-huh.
And so it's not the same anymore. And then you have to read the captions on the photos. Not all of them imply that it's current, but some of them specifically say, this is what we're doing right now. This is gaslighting. This is propaganda. And so we're asking the questions, and we're going through I'm going down the list. I've got their phone numbers now because I was there. We're going down the list. We're talking to the National Guard. We're talking to the 18th Airborne. We're talking to FEMA. We're talking to the North Carolina Emergency Management. We're talking to everybody we can to get the answers. We're being stonewalled, as you can imagine, except the only one that was really immediately forthcoming was 18th Airborne. Yeah, we withdrew about a month ago.
That's
End of conversation. Now let's just get down to the brass tacks of this. I'm going to start off with I'm going to reverse my punchline for once. All right, we have, according to the state, $60 billion worth of damage done. That's both private property and public infrastructure in Western North Carolina. A FEMA spokesman told me on the ground at one of their mobile disaster relief centers while I was there. He said that he works all of the hurricanes. He lives in Florida. He's worked all of the major hurricanes along the Gulf Coast, the coast, both coasts of Florida, up to the East Coast, the coastal Carolinas. He said, this is the worst disaster I've ever seen times 10. All right. So with that stage laid, and $60 billion worth of damage, our government has spent 4 times that to destroy shit in Ukraine.
It's so annoying.
4 times that. Now, when we talk about actual troop deployments, military, both what they call Title 10 active duty troops or National Guard, the governors have control over the National Guards in their state. The approval of the Title 10 has to come from the president. Every one of these disasters that I mentioned, whether I mention New Orleans, Katrina, whether I mention Houston, whether I mention Puerto Rico, Hawaii, Haiti, Indonesia, or 60,000 troops in California for their latest wildfire episode.
Right.
The minimum of all of those that I just listed was 15,000 troops deployed. In North Carolina, according to FEMA spokesman, the worst disaster he's ever seen times 10, the largest troop deployment we had there from both federal and state, 3,150. And now they're gone.
God.
Now, gross incompetence?
No.
Sarah?
No, because we already saw that the FEMA people were being told to pass by the yards with Trump signs. We already saw that. And by the way, that woman is totally rolled over. She's like, yeah, that came from higher than me. It wasn't just me. I'm not going to take the blame for it. They were telling us to do that. No, I refuse to believe that is gross incompetence. And by the way, Steve, to your point about, Matt, I want to get your thoughts too, to your point about how much we've spent on Ukraine for our little proxy war that Joe Biden is trying very, very hard to get us to escalate to World War III. It's like, I would say that's treasonous. Sending all of our money, billions of dollars, to another country to engage in a war that does not interest us, while it's like the federal government does so many things that they're not supposed to do. There's like one of few things that you actually are supposed to do, which is, I don't know, help these people in times of need, in times of crisis with this emergency, this weather disaster that happened. And you're telling me you guys are refusing to do it. That is treasonous to me. This is treasonous.
Yeah, I think if you cast your minds back to the heady days of 2016 when Trump came in, I'm just telling you guys, because the good times are going to roll again. But if you cast your mind back to then, Trump said that if he went into a certain area that he was going to control the oil. Well, I hope he does that in Ukraine and gets every dime back off those people, right? Because whatever we spent there, I know, look, the people need to know there's like, there are tons of American companies just sitting in Poland, right, waiting to rebuild Ukraine. That's just a fact. They are. And so I think that we should start, as you said, Sarah, we sent that money. It's a loan, in my opinion. We want it back. We shouldn't have done it anyway. It wasn't the will of the people. Most people didn't want that. And again, it's this continuance, like what's happening in the UK, right? They continually keep putting other countries ahead of Americans. Yeah. And that has to end. Yeah. And I think that when Trump comes in, he's going to do that. One other point. This lame duck session has got to stop. Like, we've got to stop having these elections and then letting these people come in, because it's anticipated they're not going to destroy everything. But as we can see, the left is so immature. What they're doing is they're destroying, sending our money away, causing all these problems, getting us into wars before the president comes in. Something has to change there.
Yeah. Well, and to your point, Joe Biden is trying to forgive these loans that we did send to Ukraine. In his final moments, he's like, I'm going to flood the zone at the border. They're no longer even required to show up in person for their CBP appointment. They can just check in by phone. And I'm going to escalate World War III. And also, I'm going to try to forgive the loans that we sent over to Ukraine. I mean, it's incredible watching him try to ruin everything before he leaves.